You sent someone to impersonate you, he said. And his voice was so calm, it took me 3 full seconds to realize the folder he'd opened contained surveillance photos of me leaving my apartment, walking to work, buying coffee, every morning for the past week. I set down my water glass very carefully because my hands had started to shake. I don't understand. Yes, you do. He turned one of the photos toward me. Tuesday morning, blue coat, the coffee shop on Lexington where I always stopped. You made a reservation under your name, used your credit card, and sent someone else to sit at my table. The restaurant around us, Il Sarto, the place I'd chosen for what was supposed to be Elliot Ward's blind date, suddenly felt too small. The man across from me wore a suit that fit like it had been built around him, and when the waiter had seated me 15 minutes ago, every other person in the room had gone very, very quiet. I thought he was a potential client. Marek Vieri, the message had said, interested in discussing corporate compliance consultation. My assistant had added it to my calendar, but the reservation printout he'd shown me first, before the photos, that had my name on it. Maris Arden, the table number, last Thursday night. I didn't sit at your table, I said. No, you sent a substitute. He leaned back, and I caught the edge of something dark and promising in his eyes. A very enthusiastic girl who stayed for 3 courses and scared off a business associate I'd spent 6 months trying to meet. Oh God, Kira. I'd sent Kira to the blind date because I'd been stuck in a meeting and hadn't been able to send her Elliot's photo in time. I texted her the description: tall, brown hair, expensive suit, reserved manner. I told her to look for the guy who looked like he'd never laughed in his life. Kira had probably walked right up to the most serious-looking man in the restaurant. That was a mistake, I said. Clearly. He tapped one of the surveillance photos. The question is whether you're careless or malicious. Careless, I said immediately. Absolutely careless. This wasn't aimed at you. Then who was it aimed at? I opened my mouth, closed it. There was no version of this story that didn't make me sound like a disaster. A blind date, I said finally. My parents arranged a blind date. I didn't want to go, so I sent my roommate instead. She must have sat at the wrong table. He studied me for a long moment. Then he smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made my stomach drop. So you're not just careless, he said. You're a coward. The word hit like a slap. I felt my spine go straight. Excuse me? You didn't want to go, but you didn't have the courage to say no. So you sent someone else to clean up your mess. He closed the folder. And now a man named Severin Dalman thinks you're connected to me. I don't know who that is. He's the reason you've been followed for a week. He slid another photo across the table, me walking into my building yesterday. He saw your friend at my table and decided she mattered. Then he pulled the reservation, found your name, and started looking for leverage. My throat went tight. Why? Because he thinks I'm betraying people who don't forgive betrayal. A woman at my private table during a legitimate business meeting looks like proof. He tapped the photo. He's been watching you ever since. The room tilted slightly. I pressed my palms flat against the table. I don't know you, I said. There's nothing between us. Can't you just tell him that? Severin doesn't care about the truth. He cares about what he can use. His gaze didn't waver. Right now, you're a vulnerability he thinks he's found. That makes you valuable to him. Then I'll disappear on my own. I'll take time off. Go somewhere he can't find me. Where? He tilted his head slightly. Your parents' house? A hotel? Your friend's place? He tapped another photo. He already knows your building, your office, your routines. He has people watching. The second you deviate from your pattern, he'll know you're running, and he'll wonder why. My stomach dropped. So what am I supposed to do? Let me handle it. Handle it how? By making you disappear the right way, controlled, under protection. He closed the folder. You take annual leave. Tell your father you need a break. Then you come with me until I neutralize Severin's interest. I stared at him. You want me to just leave with you? A stranger? Yes. That's insane. It's survival. His tone stayed even, almost clinical. Severin is paranoid and violent. If he decides you're worth taking, he'll use you to get to me. And when he's done, he'll make sure you can't testify. The words landed like ice water. And my friend, I asked? Kira. The girl who actually sat at your table. He doesn't have her name, yet. The reservation was under yours, and his surveillance picked you up, not her. He paused. But if you go to the police, if you tell people what's happening, if you make noise, he'll start looking harder. He'll find her. He'll find your parents. So I'm supposed to just vanish and hope they don't worry? You're supposed to give them a believable reason and keep them out of the crossfire. His voice sharpened slightly. Your father runs an investment firm. Your mother moves in social circles that overlap with people in my world. If Severin decides to pressure you through them, it won't be subtle. I thought about my father, about the carefully constructed reputation he'd built for Arden Capital, about my mother's donor galas and charity boards. How long, I asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. And then you go back to your life. Severin will have moved on or been dealt with. Either way, you're no longer interesting. I looked at the photos spread between us, my coffee shop, my morning walk, the park shortcut I took when I was running late. What if I say no? Then I leave and you try to outrun a man who's been mapping your life for a week. He stood, buttoning his jacket with careful precision. You're smart enough to know how that ends. He was right. I was smart enough to see the trap, smart enough to know that running alone was suicide. But I was also smart enough to be terrified of getting into a car with a man I'd met 20 minutes ago. You could be lying, I said, about all of it. This could be a setup? He pulled out his phone and set it on the table, unlocked. Call your father. Ask him if he knows the name Severin Dalmont. Ask if he's ever heard warnings about crossing certain people in this city. He pushed the phone toward me. Go ahead. I stared at the phone. Or, he said quietly, you can trust that if I wanted to hurt you, I wouldn't have wasted time explaining the situation. My hands were shaking again. I curled them into fists. If I do this, I said slowly, I need to be able to contact my family to check in so they don't file a missing person report. You'll have a secure phone, limited contact, enough to keep them calm. And my job, I can't just disappear for 3 weeks without. You'll work remotely, carefully. No location services, no video calls that show where you are. He picked up his phone. Anything else? How do I know I can trust you? You don't. His expression was unreadable. But you can trust that Severin is worse. The silence stretched between us. Then I thought about Kira. About the way she'd laughed when I'd sent her to that blind date, thinking it was a harmless prank. About my parents who had no idea their carefully planned future for me had just collided with something dark and dangerous. I couldn't protect them by running. I could only protect them by disappearing the right way. Okay, I said. He studied me for a moment, and something shifted in his expression. Approval, maybe, or surprise. My driver is outside. He'll take you home. You have 20 minutes to pack. Practical clothes, essentials. Leave your usual electronics. I'll provide clean devices. 20 minutes? Severin's people know your building. The longer you're inside, the higher the risk. He pulled a phone from his pocket and set it on the table. 1 contact. Use it if there's a problem. I picked up the phone. It was already on, a single name saved. Vieri. What do I tell my father? Burnout, personal time, health. Something vague enough that he doesn't ask questions. His gaze held mine. And Maris, when I ask you about your father's clients, about corporate structures and shell companies, I need honest answers. If Severin's hiding behind legitimate fronts, your expertise matters. The way he said my name made my pulse stutter. I understand. Good. He moved toward the door, then stopped. One more thing. If you try to run once you're with me, if you contact the wrong people or make noise, you put everyone at risk. Your friend, your family, yourself. He looked back, at me. Don't be careless twice. Then he was gone, and I was alone with a folder full of evidence that my stupid, cowardly mistake had put me in a stranger's crosshairs. I stood slowly, walked outside where a man in a dark suit was waiting beside a black car. Miss Arden, he said, opening the door. I'm Rafe. Mr. Vieri said you'd need a ride. I got in. The drive to my apartment took 12 minutes. Rafe didn't speak, didn't look at me, just drove with the kind of precision that suggested he'd done this 100 times before. When we pulled up to my building's side entrance, he handed me a key card. Service elevator, code is 4738. 20 minutes starts now. I took the card and ran. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it that morning, Kira's coffee mug in the sink, my case files spread across the dining table, the reminder on my phone to pick up dry cleaning. Normal, safe, mine. I grabbed my weekend bag and started throwing things in. Jeans, sweaters, the practical boots I wore when it snowed, underwear, my medication, toiletries, the framed photo of Kira and me from law school graduation. 15 minutes. I pulled out my phone and called my father. He answered on the second ring. Maris, I'm in a meeting. I need to take personal leave. 2, maybe 3 weeks. Silence. Then, why? I'm burnt out. I haven't taken real time off in 2 years, and I need space. This is about the ward dinner. His tone flattened. Your mother said you seemed upset. Let him think that. Let him think I was being dramatic about a blind date instead of running from a man who'd been photographing me for a week. Maybe, I don't know, I just need time, Dad. Another pause. I could hear papers rustling, someone talking in the background. Fine, but I expect you back before the Kensington closing. 3 weeks, Maris, not a day more. Thank you. I hung up before he could ask where I was going. 17 minutes. I scribbled a note on the kitchen whiteboard. Emergency leave. Needed space. Don't worry, I'll text soon. Then I turned off my phone and locked the door behind me. Rafe was exactly where I'd left him. 19 minutes, I said, slightly breathless. He took my bag without comment and stored it in the trunk. Then he opened the door and I got in, and we drove away from my building, my street, the coffee shop where someone had been watching me. The safe, controlled world my parents had built. The one I'd just agreed to leave. Merrick's building was in Tribeca, all glass and steel, and the kind of quiet money that didn't need to announce itself. Rafe pulled into an underground garage, passed 2 security checkpoints, and stopped in front of a private elevator. Penthouse, he said, handing me my bag. Mr. Vieri is waiting. The elevator ride took 30 seconds, long enough for my heart to climb into my throat. The doors opened directly into the apartment. It was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Clean lines, expensive. Furniture, the kind of space that felt more like a museum than a home. Marek stood near the windows, phone to his ear, speaking in low, clipped Italian. He saw me, held up one finger, finished the call. You made good time, he said, pocketing his phone. Your driver was very efficient. Rafe usually is. He gestured toward a hallway. Your room is the second door on the left. Private bathroom. I'll have someone bring up anything you need that you didn't pack. I followed him down the hall. The room was smaller than the main space, but still bigger than my entire apartment. King bed, sitting area, desk with a lamp, everything in shades of gray and white. The door locks from the inside, he said, but don't lock it at night. If there's a security issue, I need to be able to get to you fast. The implication made my skin prickle. Is that likely? No, but we plan for unlikely. He set a laptop and phone on the desk. Clean devices, no traceable accounts. Use them for work if you need to. The Wi-Fi is secure, but don't access anything that logs your location. Understood. He moved to the window, checking something I couldn't see, then turned back. Ground rules. You don't leave this apartment without me or Rafe. You don't open the door for anyone. You don't tell anyone where you are, not your friend, not your parents. If you need something, you ask. His gaze held mine. And if I ask you a question, you answer honestly. No games, no half-truths. Okay. I mean it, Maris. This only works if you cooperate. I said okay. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. Get settled. I'll order dinner. Any allergies? No. Good. He left, closing the door behind him. I sat on the edge of the bed and tried to remember how to breathe. Dinner arrived an hour later, Thai food from a place I'd never heard of, delivered by someone who barely looked at me. Marek set everything out on the dining table with the kind of efficiency that suggested he did this often. You didn't eat at Il Sarto, he said. You need food. I sat, picked up chopsticks. How do you know I didn't eat? You ordered water. looked at the menu twice but didn't choose anything, and you were shaking. He opened a container of pad thai. Fear kills appetite, but your body still needs fuel. The observation was unsettling, the fact that he'd noticed even more so. You're very observant, I said carefully. It's kept me alive. We ate in silence for a few minutes. The food was good, better than good, but I could barely taste it. Tell me about your father's firm, Merrick said eventually. I set down my chopsticks. What do you want to know? What kind of clients does Arden Capital work with? Private equity, venture capital, some real estate development. My father focuses on growth investments, tech startups, biotech, clean energy. Shell companies. Sometimes, for investor privacy or tax optimization, it's standard structure. Who handles the compliance review? I do, mostly. I met his gaze. We don't knowingly work with criminals, if that's what you're asking. I'm not asking if your father's dirty. I'm asking if Severin could be hiding behind one of your clients. The thought made my stomach turn. I'd have to look at the files. Tomorrow, he leaned back, watching me. Tonight, you rest. Your body's running on adrenaline, and that won't last. I'm fine. You're not. You're scared, exhausted, and probably wondering if you made the right choice getting in that car. His voice stayed even. But you did, and you're safe here. So eat, sleep, and tomorrow we figure out how to make sure you stay that way. The certainty in his tone was oddly steadying. I finished my food in silence. That night, I lay in the enormous bed and stared at the ceiling. The door was unlocked, the way he'd asked. The apartment was silent except for the faint hum of the city below. I thought about Kira, probably panicking over my whiteboard note. About my father, irritated that I'd disrupted his plans. About Elliot Ward, who had no idea he'd been part of the chain reaction that brought me here. About the man on the other side of this door who'd looked at me across a restaurant table and seen something worth protecting. Or worth using. I didn't know which yet. I woke to the smell of coffee. For a disoriented second, I thought I was home. Then I registered the unfamiliar bed, the gray walls, the faint sound of someone moving in the kitchen. I pulled on jeans and a sweater and padded barefoot into the main room. Marek stood at the counter, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. He was dressed more casually today, dark Henley, black pants, but the controlled precision was still there in every movement. Morning, he said without looking up. Coffee? Please. He slid a mug across the counter. Black, no sugar. I didn't ask how he knew. Sleep okay? Well enough. Liar. He took a sip of his own coffee. You were up at 2. I heard you pacing. Of course he had. Bad habit, I said. I pace when I'm thinking. What were you thinking about? Whether you're going to kill me, whether Severin is real, whether I just walked into something worse than what I left. Home, I said instead. He nodded slowly, like that made sense. There are files on the desk in your room. Client lists from shell companies linked to Severin's known operations. I need you to cross-reference them with Arden Capital's portfolio. Looking for overlap? Looking for patterns. Severin's smart. He buries his money deep. But if your father's firm handled any of the paperwork, there'll be traces. I set down my mug. And if I find something, then we use it. Use it how? Carefully. His gaze held mine. I'm not asking you to burn your father's reputation, but if Severin's hiding behind Arden Capital's clients, I need to know. It gives us leverage. Leverage. The word sat heavy between us. I'll look, I said. Good. He checked his watch. I have a meeting this afternoon. Rafe will. Be here. Don't answer the door for anyone else. Understood. He moved toward the elevator, then paused. Maris? Yes? Thank you for cooperating. Then he was gone, and I was alone with a stack of files and the unsettling realization that I'd just agreed to dig into my father's business for a man I barely knew. The files were meticulous. Spreadsheets, corporate structures, transaction histories, all labeled in clean, precise handwriting that probably belonged to someone on Merrick's payroll. I opened my laptop and started cross-referencing. It took 3 hours to find the first connection, a shell company called Halo Ventures, listed as a limited partner in one of my father's tech funds. The structure looked standard at first glance. But when I traced the ownership back through 3 layers, I found a name I recognized from Marek's files. Dmitry Kovac, one of Severin's lieutenants. My hands went cold. I kept digging. Found 2 more connections, both buried deep enough that my father probably didn't know. Both feeding money into Arden Capital's portfolio through intermediaries. Severin had been laundering money through my father's firm, and I'd been the one doing the compliance reviews. I sat back, staring at the screen. If this came out, if anyone discovered that Arden Capital had unknowingly facilitated money laundering, my father's reputation would be destroyed. The firm would collapse. My mother's carefully built social standing would evaporate. Everything they'd worked for, gone. And I was the one who'd missed it. I heard the elevator chime. Footsteps. Marek appeared in the doorway. "Find something?" I turned the laptop toward him. He crossed the room, leaned over my shoulder to read the screen. I could feel the heat of him, the faint scent of expensive cologne, and something darker underneath. "Halo Ventures," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Kovac's Shell. It's a limited partner in my father's Apex Tech Fund. And there are 2 others, Crescent Holdings and Blackwell Capital, all tied back to Severin's network. How much? Collectively, about 40 million over 3 years. He was quiet for a long moment. "Your father doesn't know," he said finally. "No. The due diligence would have flagged it if the ownership structure wasn't so layered. Someone designed this specifically to slip through compliance. Severin. Probably." Marek straightened, pulling out his phone. "This is useful." "Useful how?" He typed something quickly, then pocketed the phone. "Severin thinks he's buried his money safely. If we expose these connections to the right regulators, his assets freeze. His partners panic. His whole network starts to fracture. And my father's firm. Collateral damage, unless we're careful." He looked at me. "I can structure the exposure so it looks like Arden Capital cooperated with an investigation. Your father becomes the victim, not the accomplice." "You can do that?" "I know people. Banking regulators, federal prosecutors, people who owe me favors." His expression was unreadable. "But it means your father will know someone used his firm. He'll ask questions." "Let him ask. Better than letting Severin keep hiding." I closed the laptop. "When?" "Soon. I need to coordinate with a few contacts first. But this," he gestured at the screen, "this changes things. You just gave me a way to hurt Severin without firing a shot." The approval in his voice made something warm unfurl in my chest. Dangerous. "I should keep looking," I said. "There might be more." Later, "You've been staring at spreadsheets for 3 hours. Take a break." "I'm fine." "Maris," his voice dropped. "Take a break." It wasn't a request. I stood, suddenly aware of how close he was. How the light from the window caught the edge of his jaw. How his eyes weren't quite black, more like dark amber with flecks of something warmer. He stepped back. "There's food in the kitchen. Eat something. I'll be in my office if you need me." Then he left, and I stood there wondering when I'd started noticing the color of his eyes. That afternoon, I was deep in another set of files when my secure phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We know where you are." Attached was a photo of this building. My heart stopped. I grabbed the phone and ran to Marek's office. He was on a call, but the second he saw my face, he ended it. "What happened?" I showed him the phone. His expression went absolutely cold. "When did this come in?" 30 seconds ago." He took the phone, examined the photo. His jaw tightened. "That's not this building. Similar, but different angle. Corner unit, not penthouse." He looked up at me. "He's fishing. Trying to spook you into making a mistake." "How did he get this number?" "He didn't. This came through a spoofing service. Bounced through 3 countries. He handed the phone back. He's guessing, but it means he knows you've disappeared, and he's trying to flush you out." "So what do we do?" "Nothing. You don't respond. You don't panic. You stay exactly where you are." He stood, already pulling out his own phone. "But we move up the timeline." "For what?" "Exposing his assets. If he's escalating, we hit him before he gets bolder." He was typing rapidly. "I'm calling in a favor with someone at FinCEN. The shell company evidence you found. We're using it now." "Now? I haven't finished." "What you found is enough." Halo Ventures alone is sufficient to trigger an investigation. He looked at me, and something in his expression had shifted. Stay in your room, lock the door, I'm bringing in extra security. Maris, his voice dropped. He just sent a photo to spook you. Next time, it might not be a photo. So lock the door, stay put, and let me handle this. The fear in my chest crystallized into something sharper. Okay. He walked me back to my room, checked the window locks himself, then stopped at the door. I won't let him get to you, he said quietly. You can't. Promise that. Yes, I can. His gaze held mine. I've handled worse than Severin. He's paranoid and sloppy. That makes him predictable. And if he's not, then I'm very good at adapting. He stepped back. Lock it behind me. I did. Then I sat on the bed with my heart hammering and tried not to think about what next time might look like. An hour later, the power went out. The entire apartment plunged into darkness. I stood frozen for 3 seconds. Then I heard Marek's voice through the door. Maris, open up, now. I unlocked it. He was already there, flashlight in hand, Rafe behind him. Backup generator should have kicked in, Rafe said. It didn't. Someone cut it. Marek's voice was absolutely level. Maris, you're coming with me. What's happening? Building-wide outage. Could be coincidence. Could be Severin testing our security. He took my arm, not roughly but firmly. Either way, you're not staying in a room with windows right now. He led me down the hall to a door I hadn't noticed before. Reinforced. Heavy locks. A safe room. Inside, he said. It was smaller than my bedroom. Concrete walls, no windows. A couch, some supplies, a bank of monitors showing different angles of the building. Rafe disappeared. Marek closed the door behind us, and I heard multiple locks engage. We stay here until power's restored, and Rafe confirms the building's clear. How long will that take? Could be 10 minutes, could be 2 hours. He moved to the monitors, checking each screen methodically. Depends on whether this is Severin or just bad luck. I sat on the couch because my legs had gone shaky. Does this happen often? No. He glanced at me. Which is why I'm not taking chances. The silence stretched. In the dim emergency lighting, his face was all sharp angles and shadows. You're scared, he said. I'm terrified. Good. Fear keeps you careful. He sat on the opposite end of the couch, but the space was small enough that I could still feel his presence. But don't let it paralyze you. You've handled everything so far exactly right. I found some shell companies. That's not exactly heroic. You found connections 3 layers deep that my people missed. You cross-referenced data in 3 hours that would have taken my analyst days. His voice was quiet but certain. You're not just some civilian I'm babysitting, Maris. You're an asset. The word should have stung. Instead, it felt oddly like respect. Is that what happened before? I asked before I could stop myself. With whoever Severin used against you. His expression shuddered immediately. That's not relevant. It feels relevant. You said attachment is dangerous in your world, that people get used as leverage. I turned to face him. Someone got hurt because of you. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, her name was Lena. She was a consultant. Legitimate, clean, nothing to do with my world. I thought I'd kept her separate. His jaw tightened. I was wrong. Severin's people found out she mattered. They took her. Tried to use her to force me into a bad deal. What happened? I got her out, but she'd seen too much, knew too much. She became a liability, not to me, to the people who wanted to pretend I wasn't crossing lines. He looked at me, and his eyes were hard. They said I was going soft, planning to betray them, using her as cover to go legitimate. Were you? I was considering options. That was enough. He leaned back. She left the city, changed her name. I haven't seen her in 3 years. Do you know if she's safe? She's alive. That's all I let myself know. His voice dropped. Caring about someone in this world puts a target on them. I won't make that mistake again. The implication hung between us. You're not someone I can care about. It should have been a relief. Instead, it felt like a warning I wasn't sure I wanted to heed. I'm sorry, I said, that you had to choose that. I'm not. But something in his expression suggested otherwise. My phone buzzed. I jumped. Marek checked the monitors. Rafe, power's back. Building's clear. The locks disengaged with a series of heavy clicks, but neither of us moved immediately. Maris, he said quietly. Yes? When this is over, when you go back to your life, forget you knew me, forget this apartment, these files, all of it. His gaze was steady. Don't make the mistake of thinking you're safe in my world. You're not. I know. Do you? He stood. Because you're looking at me like you're starting to trust me. That's dangerous. You asked me to trust you, at Il Sarto. You said it was the only smart move. I meant trust me to keep you alive, not trust me with anything more than that. The distinction felt important, like a line he was drawing for both of us. Understood, I said. But as I followed him out of the safe room, I couldn't shake the feeling that the line was already blurrier than either of us wanted to admit. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, replaying the feeling of the safe room, the closeness, the darkness, the way Marek had told me about Lena, with his voice carefully stripped of emotion. I won't make that mistake again. My phone buzzed, the secure one. A text from Marek. You're pacing again. I stared at the screen, typed back, how do you know? I can hear you through the walls. Thin walls, good acoustics. I stopped pacing. Sorry, don't be. Just try to sleep. Tomorrow's going to be intense. I hesitated, then typed. The story about Lena. Thank you for telling me. The reply took longer this time. Don't thank me for warnings. I set the phone down and forced myself back into bed. But I lay awake for a long time, thinking about a man who'd learned that caring about someone could destroy them both, and wondering what it meant that he'd told me anyway. The next morning, Marek was on the phone when I emerged for coffee. He gestured for me to wait, finished the call, then turned to me with something that might have been satisfaction. FinCEN flagged Halo Ventures. They're opening an investigation into the shell structure. Kovac's accounts are frozen as of an hour ago. That fast? I told you, I know people. He poured me coffee without asking. Severin will know by this afternoon. He's going to panic. Is that good? Panic makes people sloppy. Sloppy gives us openings. He leaned against the counter. But it also makes them desperate. So we stay alert. Okay. He studied me for a moment. You handled last night well. The safe room, the threat. Most people would have fallen apart. I did fall apart. I just did it quietly. His mouth curved slightly, almost a smile. That's the best way to do it. It was the closest thing to warmth I'd seen from him, and it settled into my chest like a dangerous heat. I took my coffee and retreated to my room before I could do something stupid, like notice the way his Henley fit across his shoulders, or how his voice changed when he was almost smiling. Because he'd made it very clear last night. I wasn't someone he could care about, and I needed to remember that before I forgot how to protect myself. 2 days later, everything fell apart. I was working through another set of files when Marek appeared in my doorway, his expression darker than I'd ever seen it. We have a problem. I stood immediately. What happened? Severin made a move. He leaked information to a financial journalist, claims that Arden Capital has been laundering money for organized crime. He handed me his phone. It's going to publish tomorrow unless we stop it. I read the draft article. My hands went numb. It named my father, named the firm, named specific funds, including the ones where I'd found Severin's shell companies. He's framing my father. Yes, he knows we flagged Halo Ventures. This is retaliation, destroy your father's reputation, make you desperate enough to back off. Marek took the phone back. And it works. If this publishes, Arden Capital is finished. Can't you stop it? I can delay it. Maybe kill it entirely if I leverage the right people. But Severin will just try again with a different outlet. He wants scorched earth. I sat down slowly, trying to think past the panic. There has to be a way to turn this back on him. I'm open to suggestions. My mind raced through everything I'd learned. The shell companies, the layered ownership structures, the way Severin had deliberately hidden his money through my father's firm. The article claims Arden Capital knew about the laundering, I said slowly. But we have proof they didn't. The due diligence files show the ownership structures were designed to pass compliance review. If we can prove Severin deliberately structured these companies to deceive, it becomes fraud. Conspiracy to defraud financial institutions. Marek leaned against the doorframe. That's federal, serious prison time. And it clears my father, makes him a victim, not an accomplice. We'd need documentation, proof that Severin designed the deception. I might be able to get it. The idea was forming even as I spoke. Amalia Richter. The woman Kira interrupted at Il Sarto. She's a compliance consultant. If Severin used her firm to design these structures, she'd have the paper trail. And why would she give it to us? Because she's legitimate. She won't want her firm attached to money laundering charges when this all comes out. I stood. Let me contact her. Tell her I'm conducting internal review for Arden Capital. See if she'll share documentation. Marek was quiet for a long moment. That's actually smart. You sound surprised. I'm not. I'm impressed. He pulled out his phone. I'll set up a meeting, neutral location, tomorrow morning. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. If this goes wrong, you've just exposed yourself to Severin's network. His gaze held mine. Are you sure about this? No, I wasn't sure about anything except that my father's entire life was about to be destroyed, because I'd sent Kira to a blind date. I'm sure, I said. The meeting was set for a boutique hotel in Midtown. Private dining room. Marek would be nearby, but out of sight, close enough to intervene if something went wrong. I dressed carefully, lawyer clothes, the armor I wore to Arden Capital when I needed to be taken seriously. Rafe drove me, didn't speak, just handed me a small device when we arrived. Panic button, he said. Press it if anything feels wrong. We'll be inside in 30 seconds. I slipped it into my pocket. Amalia Richter was already waiting when I entered the private dining room. Elegant, sharp-eyed, the kind of woman who'd built her career on reading people. Ms. Arden, she said, standing. I was surprised to get your call. Thank you for meeting me, I sat across from her. I'm conducting an internal review at Arden Capital. We've discovered some irregularities in our limited partner structures, and your firm handled the compliance work on several of them. Which funds? Apex Tech, Meridian Growth, Harbor Ventures. Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Those reviews were conducted 3 years ago. Everything was properly documented. I'm sure it was, but we're finding ownership layers that weren't disclosed in the original filings. Shell companies registered in jurisdictions that complicate beneficial ownership tracking. I kept my voice level. Structures that look designed to pass compliance review without revealing the actual source of funds. That's a serious accusation. I'm not accusing your firm. I'm asking if you noticed anything unusual during your review. Anything that made you look twice. She was quiet for a moment. Then she leaned back. Off the record. Completely. One of the structures, Halo Ventures, bothered me. The ownership chain was technically compliant, but it felt deliberately opaque. My associate flagged it. We asked for additional documentation. Did you get it? We got enough to satisfy the technical requirements, but the client pushed back hard on deeper inquiry. Made it clear that further questions would mean losing the contract. She met my gaze. I noted the concern in my internal files, but certified the compliance review. Who was the client contact? A man named Dmitry Kovac, Severin's lieutenant. Do you still have those internal files? The notes about your concerns? Yes, but they're privileged work product. Not if they're evidence of fraud. I leaned forward. Ms. Richter, Halo Ventures is currently under federal investigation for money laundering. If it comes out that your firm certified a structure you had concerns about, you're exposed. But if you cooperate now, provide documentation showing you raised red flags that were ignored, you're protected. Her jaw tightened. You're asking me to provide evidence against a client. I'm asking you to protect yourself and your firm. Because when this breaks, Severin Dalmont will throw everyone under the bus to save himself. You don't want to be one of them. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone. I'll send you the files, but Ms. Arden, her voice dropped. Be very careful. Men like Dmitry Kovac don't forget when someone costs them money. I know. She left first. I waited 5 minutes, then walked out into the hotel lobby. Marek was waiting near the elevators, looking like any other businessman checking his phone. How did it go? She's sending the files. Everything we need to prove Severin designed the fraud. Something that might have been pride crossed his face. Well done. We walked toward the exit. Rafe was already bringing the car around. That's when I saw him. Dmitry Kovac, standing near the hotel entrance, watching. He saw me see him and smiled. Marek, I said quietly. He followed my gaze. His entire body went tense. Get in the car, now. But Kovac was already moving toward us, 2 men flanking him. Ms. Arden, he called. We should talk. Keep walking, Marek said under his breath. I just want a conversation. About Amalia Richter. About federal investigations. About being very careful who you decide to help. Kovac's smile widened. Mr. Dalmont would like to extend an invitation. Tomorrow, noon. He'll send the address. She's not interested, Marek said. I think she should decide that herself. Kovac looked at me. Your father's reputation is fragile right now, Ms. Arden. It would be unfortunate if more information came out. Tax irregularities, insider trading, the kinds of accusations that stick even when they're not true. My stomach dropped. That's extortion. That's reality. You've made yourself very interesting to Mr. Dalmont. The smart thing would be to accept his invitation. Explain that this has all been a misunderstanding. He stepped closer. Or don't, and watch your father's firm collapse anyway. Marek moved between us. She's not meeting with Severin. Tell him to go through me. But she's so much more persuasive than you, Vieri. And Severin does enjoy meeting new people. Kovac's gaze slid back to me. Tomorrow, noon. Come alone or don't come at all. Your choice. Then he walked away, and I stood there shaking while Marek's hand closed around my elbow. Car. Now. Back at the penthouse, I went straight to my room. My hands were still shaking. I needed a minute, just 1 minute to think without Marek watching me with those assessing eyes. I pulled out the secure phone to check if Amalia's files had come through. They had. But there was something else in my messages. A text from an unknown number. You should hear what your protector really thinks of you. Attached was an audio file. My finger hovered over it. Every instinct screamed that this was Severin, that opening it was exactly what he wanted. But I pressed play anyway. Marek's voice came through, slightly distorted but unmistakable. Not about protecting her. It's about controlling the variable. As long as she's here, Severin can't use her, and I can use what she knows about Arden Capital. Rafe's voice. And after, when Severin's handled. A pause. Then Marek. Then she goes back to her life and forgets this happened. She's useful now, but she's also a liability long-term. Civilians always are. The recording cut off. I sat there, the phone cold in my hand, controlling the variable, useful, liability. All this time I'd thought, what? That I mattered? That he saw me as more than just a piece on his board? I'd trusted him with everything, and he'd been calling me a variable. The door opened without a knock. We need to talk about Kovac's. Marek stopped when he saw my face. What happened? I held up the phone. When was this recorded? He crossed the room, took the phone, listened. His expression went carefully blank. That was 3 days ago, before the safe room. Before... He stopped. Maris, you need to understand the context. The context is pretty clear. I'm a useful variable that you're controlling. My voice came out steadier than I felt. How much of this has been real, Marek? The protection, the concern? Or have I just been a convenient source of information about my father's firm? It's not that simple. Then make it simple. I stood. Tell me right now, did you ever consider using me to get leverage on my father? To access Arden Capital's files beyond what I showed you? The hesitation was answer enough. Jesus. I turned away. I'm such an idiot. You're not. Maris, listen to me. He caught my arm, gentle but firm. Yes. At the beginning, I thought about every angle, including whether your access to Arden Capital could be useful beyond this situation. That's how I survive. I calculate every possibility. And me? Was I just another possibility? At first, maybe, but that changed. When? When did it change? Before or after I found the shell companies? before or after you realized how useful I could be. My throat was tight. Or did it change at all? It changed, he said quietly. The night of the safe room. When you asked about Lena and I told you the truth instead of the easier lie. When I realized you were listening not because you were calculating your next move, but because you actually gave a damn. His hand slid down to catch mine. It changed every time you pushed back instead of just obeying. Every time you found something my people missed. Every time you proved you weren't just surviving this, you were fighting. Pretty words. True words. His grip tightened. You want to know what I really think? I think you're the smartest person I've had in this apartment. I think you see patterns and connections that take my analysts days to find. I think you're brave enough to walk into danger and sharp enough to turn traps back on the people who set them. He pulled me closer. And I think I'm terrified that after tomorrow, you're going to walk away and I'll never see you again. That's what I really think. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. Severin sent this to me for a reason. To make me doubt you. To break whatever trust we've built. I know. So maybe the smart thing is to let him. Maybe. Merrick's voice was rough. Or maybe the smart thing is to recognize that he's trying to divide us because together we're dangerous. Because you figured out how to corner him. And I have the resources to make it stick. And he needs us fighting each other instead of him. He wasn't wrong. Strategically, Severin's move made perfect sense. But strategy didn't erase the sting of hearing myself called a variable. I need time, I said, to think. We don't have time. Kovacs' meeting is tomorrow at noon. Then I'll think fast. I pulled my hand free. But right now, I need space. From you. From this. From all of it. Something that might have been pain crossed his face. Okay, he said quietly. I'll be in my office if you need me. He left, closing the door softly behind him. I sat on the bed and tried to remember how to breathe. An hour later, there was a soft knock. I'm fine, I called. It's Rafe. I opened the door. He stood there with coffee and what looked like genuine concern. He's spiraling, Rafe said without preamble. Hasn't spiraled this bad since Lena. I don't want to hear about, just listen. He pushed past me, set the coffee on the desk. 3 years ago, Merrick made the mistake of caring about someone in this world. Severin used her. Nearly got her killed. Since then, he's been ice. Calculating every move, trusting no one. Treating people like chess pieces because that's safer than caring. Your point? My point is you broke through that. In a week, you made him care again. And yeah, at first he tried to frame it as strategy. Kept telling himself you were useful, a variable, whatever helped him sleep at night. Rafe met my gaze. But I've worked for him for 5 years. I know when he's lying to himself. And that recording? That was him lying to himself 3 days ago because he was terrified of admitting the truth. Which is? That he'd already fallen for you and didn't know how to handle it without getting you killed. The words settled into my chest. Heavy and complicated. Severin sent that recording to manipulate me. Obviously. So trusting Marek is the smart play. Maybe, or maybe you're both so busy strategizing that you're missing the actual truth. Rafe headed for the door. Which is that tomorrow you're walking into danger, and if you two are at war with each other, Severin wins. He left. I sat with the coffee and stared at the files on my laptop, the evidence I'd gathered, the trap we'd planned together. The way Marek had looked at me when I'd suggested turning the meeting into an opportunity instead of just a threat. You're braver than you think you are. He'd said that before the recording existed, before I'd proven myself useful. I picked up the secure phone and texted, I'm still going tomorrow, but we need to talk first. The reply came immediately. My office. Now or whenever you're ready. I took a breath, then I went. Marek was standing by the window when I entered. He turned, and the careful blankness was gone. He just looked tired. I'm sorry, he said before I could speak. Not for calculating possibilities. That's who I am. But for making you feel like you were just a means to an end. You're not. You haven't been for days. I want to believe that. Then believe this. He crossed to his desk, pulled out a folder. This is everything I have on Severin. Locations, contacts, financial structures, leverage points. If something happens to me tomorrow, you'll need it. I took the folder slowly. Why are you giving this to me? Because if we're doing this, if you're walking into that meeting, I need you to have every advantage, including information I've never shared with anyone. His gaze held mine. That's trust, Maris. Real trust, not strategy. I opened the folder. It was comprehensive, detailed, the kind of information that could destroy Severin completely or get someone killed for possessing it. This is everything, yes. You're trusting me with your entire operation against him. I'm trusting you with more than that. He stepped closer. I'm trusting you with the truth, which is that I'm terrified tomorrow goes wrong, that Severin outmaneuvers us, that I lose you the same way I lost Lena, except this time it'll be worse because He stopped. Because you what? Because you're not just someone I'm protecting. You're someone I can't imagine not protecting. His voice dropped. And that scares me more than anything Severin could do. The last of my anger dissolved. I heard variable and liability and I panicked, I admitted. Because everyone in my life has treated me like a chess piece. My father, my mother, even Kira sometimes, in her way. And I thought you were different, but then I am different, but I'm also the same in the worst ways. He reached up, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. I do calculate. I do strategize. I do think 3 moves ahead. But Maris, every calculation I've made for the past week has included keeping you alive and whole. Not because you're useful, because you're you. Merrick, I'm not good at this, at caring, at admitting it. But if we're walking into this together tomorrow, you need to know. He cupped my face in his hands. You matter. You've mattered since the safe room, maybe before. And if anything happens to you, it won't be because I didn't care enough. It'll be because I cared too much to keep you locked away. I leaned into his touch. I'm still angry about that recording. You should be. And I'm still scared about tomorrow. That makes 2 of us. But I trust you. The words came easier than I expected. Not because it's strategic, because you've earned it. He exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding his breath. Then he kissed me. It was careful and deliberate. Like he was memorizing the taste of me, the feel of me, everything about this moment. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. After tomorrow, he said quietly, if you want to walk away, if you want your safe, normal life back, I won't stop you. And if I don't want that, then we figure out what comes next, together. His thumb traced my cheekbone. But first, we survive tomorrow. Together, I agreed. He kissed me again, and this time I let myself fall into it completely. No strategy, no calculations, just the feeling of being wanted by someone who'd spent a week trying not to want me, and finally stopped fighting. When we finally pulled apart, my lips were swollen and my heart was racing, and I felt more alive than I had in years. I should let you sleep, he said, but he didn't move away. One more, I whispered. Maris. One more kiss, before tomorrow. He groaned softly but obliged, pulling me closer as his mouth found mine again. This kiss was slower, deeper, full of everything we hadn't said and might not get the chance to say tomorrow. When it ended, we were both breathing hard. Go, he said roughly. Before I forget every reason this is complicated, I went. But I fell asleep that night thinking not about variables or liability, but about the way he'd looked at me when he'd said you matter, and the way he'd kissed me like he meant it. The next morning, I dressed in my lawyer armor again. Marek fitted me with a wire, a tiny device that looked like a button on my blouse. It's voice-activated, he said, his fingers steady even though his jaw was tight. We'll hear everything. If you say the word immediately, Rafe and I come in. No hesitation. Understood? Understood. And Maris. He tilted my chin up so I had to meet his eyes. If anything feels wrong, if Severin says or does anything that makes you uncomfortable, you get out. Don't wait. Don't try to fix it. Just leave. I will. Promise me. I promise. He held my gaze for a moment longer. Then he kissed my forehead. Brief, almost chaste, but it made my chest ache anyway. Let's go corner a monster, he said. The address Severin sent was for a private club in the financial district. Old money, expensive memberships. The kind of place where illegal deals happen behind mahogany doors and no one asks questions. Rafe dropped me at the entrance. We're 2 blocks away, he said quietly. Merrick's already in position. You're not alone. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Then I walked inside. The host checked my name against a list and led me through corridors lined with dark wood and oil paintings of men who'd probably built empires on other people's backs. We stopped at a private dining room. Severin Dalmont sat at the head of the table. He was older than I'd expected, maybe 60, with silver hair and the kind of face that probably looked distinguished in boardrooms. But his eyes were cold and calculating. Ms. Arden, he stood, gestured to a chair. Thank you for coming. I sat, keeping my hands steady. You didn't leave me much choice. No, I suppose I didn't. He poured wine into 2 glasses. But I appreciate pragmatism. It's a rare quality. What do you want? Direct. I like that. He slid a glass toward me. I want you to understand your situation. You've involved yourself in matters that don't concern you. You've helped Marek Vieri investigate my business operations. You've caused federal scrutiny of my assets. I was reviewing my father's firm. That's my job. Your job is to be a good daughter and follow the path your father laid out, not to play detective with a man who's using you. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Merrick doesn't care about you, Ms. Arden. You're a convenient source of information, a tool. When you're no longer useful, he'll discard you. I thought about the recording, about how close I'd come to believing exactly that. If you brought me here to warn me about Marek, you wasted your time. I brought you here to offer you a choice. He leaned back. Walk away. Tell Merrick you're done. Go back to your life at Arden Capital. In return, the article about your father's firm disappears. No investigation, no scandal. Your family's reputation stays intact. And if I don't? Then I release everything. Your father's firm collapses. Your mother's social standing evaporates. And you... His gaze turned sharp. You become a liability that Marek can't afford to keep. My heart was pounding, but I made myself stay calm. You're afraid, I said. His expression flickered. Excuse me. You're afraid of what I found, of what Amalia Richter's files prove, of what happens when federal prosecutors start looking at how you design those shell companies specifically to deceive compliance reviews. I leaned forward slightly. If you weren't afraid, you wouldn't be offering me a deal. You'd just destroy my father and be done with it. Careful, Ms. Arden. You think I'm just a civilian who stumbled into your world. But I'm a lawyer who understands exactly how financial fraud investigations work. And I know that once FinCEN flags your accounts, once the SEC starts digging, once prosecutors see the pattern. I paused. You don't just lose money, you lose everything. Your network, your protection, your freedom. He set down his wine glass very carefully. You're more interesting than I expected. I'm more prepared than you expected. I pulled out my phone, set it on the table. Amalia Richter's files are already with federal prosecutors. Her documentation proves you knowingly structured fraudulent entities. That's conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, the kind of charges that don't end with fines. You're bluffing. Am I? I met his gaze. Test me. Release that article about my father. See what happens when prosecutors decide you're trying to intimidate a witness. See how fast your assets freeze and your associates start making deals. The silence stretched. Then Severin smiled, but it was razor sharp. Merrick trained you well. Merrick didn't train me. He just gave me space to be exactly who I've always been. I stood. Here's my offer. You withdraw the article. You leave my family alone. You leave Marek alone. In return, I don't push prosecutors to file additional witness intimidation charges. That's not a negotiation. That's a threat. Yes, it is. My voice stayed steady even though my pulse was hammering. Because you miscalculated. You thought I was a weakness you could exploit. But I'm the person who found the connections your own people missed. Who turned your leverage into evidence. Who gave Marek exactly what he needed to dismantle your network. I headed for the door. Miss Arden. I stopped but didn't turn around. You should know, Severin said quietly, that walking away from me makes you a permanent enemy. I don't forget. I don't forgive. Good, I said. Neither do I. Then I walked out. I made it to the lobby before my legs started shaking. Marek was there immediately, his hand at my elbow. You got it all? I asked. He showed me his phone. The wire had transmitted everything. Every word, including him admitting he planned to release the article and threatening you directly. His expression was fierce. That's witness intimidation, extortion, more than enough to accelerate the federal case. So it's over? Not yet, but close. He guided me toward the exit. You just did something incredibly brave and incredibly stupid. Which part? All of it. But there was pride in his voice. The way you turned his threat back on him. The way you made him admit his intent on recording. That was reckless? Perfect. He stopped just outside, where Rafe had the car waiting. You're perfect. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked it, and his expression went cold. What? Kovac just tried to access your father's office. My people stopped him, but he was already moving. Severance, making a move. He knows he's cornered, so he's going after your family directly. My stomach dropped. We need to get there. Already handled. I have people at your father's building and your parents' home. But Maris? He turned to me. This is the endgame. Severin's desperate. Desperate men don't follow rules. Then we end it now. Tonight. I got in the car. You said you know people. Federal prosecutors. Banking regulators. Use them. Use everything I found. Use the recording from today. Bury him. Marek slid in beside me, already making calls. The next 6 hours were a blur. Marek's office became a war room. Phones ringing. Files spread across every surface. Federal contacts calling back with updates. I sat at his desk, coordinating with the prosecutors, walking them through the shell company structures, explaining how Severin had layered the fraud. Around midnight, Marek got the call. They're moving, he said, setting down his phone. Federal agents are executing warrants on Severin's properties right now, freezing accounts, seizing records. And Kovac? In custody. Attempted breaking and entering, plus conspiracy charges once they connect him to the shell companies. I exhaled slowly. It's really over? The immediate threat is, Severin will be tied up in federal court for years. His network is fractured. His assets are frozen. Marek moved to the window, looking out at the city. You're safe. Your family is safe. Relief washed over me, so intense it made me dizzy. Thank you. You did most of the work. I just made calls. He turned back to me. You walked into that meeting alone. You cornered a man who's destroyed people for less. You did that. We did that. Together. He crossed to me, pulled me up from the chair, and wrapped his arms around me. I let myself sink into him. Let the adrenaline finally drain away. Let myself feel safe for the first time in 2 weeks. What happens now? I asked against his chest. Now you decide what you want. I pulled back enough to look at him. What I want. Your life back. Arden Capital. Your apartment. Your father's careful plans for your future. His expression was carefully neutral. It's all still there. Severin's gone. The threat's over. You can go back and pretend this never happened. Is that what you want? What I want doesn't matter. Yes, it does. I cupped his face, made him look at me. Tell me what you want, Marek. His jaw worked. Then, I want you to stay. I want you to work for me, really work for me. Not just hide under my protection. I need someone who understands corporate structures, who can think 3 steps ahead, who can walk into a room and turn threats into leverage. He paused. I need someone I trust, and I trust you. Just professional. No. His voice dropped. Not just professional. Not even close to just professional. My heart was racing again, but this time it wasn't fear. My father will be furious. Probably. My mother will think I've lost my mind. Definitely. And your world? It's dangerous, complicated. Nothing like the life I was supposed to have. I know. He pulled me closer. So if you want to walk away, I understand. You deserve safe and simple and... I kissed him. It was different from the desperate kisses in his penthouse. This was a choice. A deliberate, clear-eyed choice to step into his world and see what we could build together. When I pulled back, he was staring at me. That's your answer? He asked. That's my answer, I smiled. I don't want safe and simple. I want purpose. I want partnership. I want to use my mind for something that matters, not just cleaning up other people's contracts. It won't be easy. Good. Easy is boring. I traced his jaw with my thumb. I spent my whole life being what everyone else wanted, making myself small, following the path laid out for me. And then I walked into a restaurant to meet a fake client and accidentally wrecked a mafia boss's legitimate deal. Best mistake you ever made? Worst mistake that led to the best decision. I kissed him again, softer this time. I choose this. I choose you. I choose the complicated, dangerous, purpose-filled life where I'm finally seen. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for days. You're sure? I'm terrified, but I'm sure. Good. He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, finally my mouth. Because I'm not letting you go now. You're too valuable. Variable or asset? Partner. His eyes were warm. Definitely partner. 3 weeks later, I sat in my new office, smaller than my father's, but mine, reviewing corporate structures for Vieri Holdings. The door opened without knocking. You're going to wear yourself out, Merrick said, setting coffee on my desk. I'm fine, just finishing this merger review. It's 8 p.m. You've been here since 6 a.m. So have you. That's different. How? He didn't have an answer for that. I smiled and pulled him down for a kiss. My father had been furious when I'd quit Arden Capital. My mother had been horrified, but I'd stood in their living room and told them I was taking a position as general counsel for a private holdings company, that I'd be doing real strategic work, that this was my choice. They hadn't understood. Maybe they never would. But as I sat in this office, reviewing deals that actually challenged me, working alongside someone who valued my mind as much as anything else about me, I knew I'd made the right choice. Dinner? Marek asked. In an hour. I want to finish this section. Workaholic. You're one to talk. He grinned, rare but devastating, and left me to it. I turned back to my screen, but my gaze caught on the photo I'd placed on my desk. Kira and me at law school graduation. I texted her 2 weeks ago, told her I'd taken a new job. She'd been confused but supportive. I'd tell her the whole story eventually. Most of it, anyway. My phone buzzed. A text from Marek. Dinner in my office. Don't make me come get you. I typed back. Threatening your general counsel? That's inappropriate workplace behavior. You love it when I'm inappropriate. I laughed and saved my work. He was right. I did. That night, we sat on his penthouse balcony, the same space where I'd hidden, terrified and trapped. Now it felt like home. Do you regret it? Marek asked, his arm around my shoulders. Leaving your old life? No, I leaned into him. I regret sending Kira to that blind date, but everything after, this? I turned to look at him. No regrets. Even the parts where you were terrified I was going to get you killed? Especially those parts. They made this, I gestured between us, mean something. He kissed the top of my head. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights, and I thought about the invisible junior lawyer I'd been 3 weeks ago. The one who'd sabotaged from the shadows, because she was too afraid to make her own choices. That woman was gone. In her place was someone who'd walked into danger and come out stronger. Someone who'd turned a mafia rival's threats into leverage. Someone who'd chosen purpose over safety and partnership over control. Someone who was finally completely seen. What are you thinking? Marek asked. That I should send Kira a thank you gift? For what? For sitting at the wrong table. I smiled up at him. Best worst blind date in history. He laughed, deep and genuine, and pulled me closer. And I thought, this is what I want. Not the life my parents planned. Not the safe, invisible existence where I was just another piece on someone else's board. This complicated, dangerous, purpose-filled partnership where I was an equal. Where my choices mattered. Where I mattered. I love you, I said, the words surprising me as much as him. He went very still. Then he cupped my face and kissed me like I was the only thing in the world that mattered. I love you too, he said against my mouth. Terrifyingly much. Good, I whispered. Because you're stuck with me now. Promise? Promise. We kissed again, and somewhere in the city below, life moved on. Cases built, deals closed. People made choices that would change their lives. But up here, in this moment, I'd already made mine. And I'd never been more certain of anything. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe so you don't miss the next Mafia love story. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Thank you for letting my stories keep you company. It truly means more than you know.